So, some dirtbag stole my catalytic converter. And this is going to be expensive. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do to prevent it from happening again. I picked this up off eBay. It's a tilt sensor, and it can tie into the car factory alarm. Very small. And I also picked up from AutoZone a relay, RL44. It's a 4-pin relay. And the other end that connects to that, that's RS40. This is like $5, this is like $6. So this comes with the wires that you can solder onto. And then I picked up some wire for 10 bucks at AutoZone for the primary wire. So I need to run a long wire to get to one of the fuses that I need. And I needed one grounding clip, not a clip, but an eyelet, a ground. So if they only sell them in 10, I only need one. And I wired this all together. So this wire comes with the tilt sensor and a fuse, very large fuse. It's only 1 amp, I think. And I connected onto the relay. So I used relay, the bottom of the relay is numbered. It's the German standard of numbering. So I used number 30 as my ground, and I used number 86 to connect to the blue wire of the sensor, the tilt sensor, and then number 85, this white wire, I connected that to my long wire that's going to go to my fuse box on the passenger side, and I'll show you that in a minute. Then this yellow number 87, I'm going to use that for my door switch to activate it. I'll show you that. That'll kick off the alarm. And like if the alarm was on and somebody opened the door, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to set off the horn and the lights. So that's all 4 of those wires. And I'll show you the fuses we're going to hook into. Okay, so the red wire needs 12 volt constant power all the time. So we will run a red wire through the dash all the way to the passenger fuse box when you open the passenger door, and we'll put an add a fuse there. Orange, one of 2 ways you can do it. I'm going to do it with power, 12 volt power when the key is on. So in the driver side fuse box, I will tap off, I'll put an add a fuse and tap off of a power source that is only 12 volts when the key is on. And then the blue wire will be the trigger wire. If the door opens, the dome light comes on. So I'll trace that switch in the driver door back to the driver fuse box. And it turns out it's a green wire with an orange stripe. And so I will put a T-tap on that tiny little wire and run my blue wire off of that. So we got 12 volt power all the time, 12 volt power when the key is on, and a door open trigger wire with the dome light. So this will come from the passenger fuse box, this will come from the driver's fuse box, and this will come from the wire for the dome light that's also in the driver's fuse box area. And there's 2 ways you can do this. You can do the orange wire ground when armed. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the alternate solution, orange wire to the key on power. Okay. Okay, I am not an expert on relays. And I know there's going to be some relay expert out there that says, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. I tried to do this without using a relay. I couldn't get it to work. But if I wire up the relay this way, it worked. So you take your 507 lift sensor, take your red wire, and make a Y connector with a long wire going through the dash over to the passenger fuse box, and use an add a fuse onto fuse number 11, and that will give you 12 volt power all the time to your red wire. Okay, so we got a Y connector on these wires, and connect those to relay number 85 wire. Take your orange wire, put an add a fuse on that to the driver's side fuse number 4. That will give you 12 volt power only when the key is on. Take your blue wire, connect it to relay wire number 86. Take relay wire number 30 and put an eyelet on that and ground it to the body of the car, screw or bolt, whatever you have to ground it nearby. Then relay wire number 87, put a T-tap on that, get some scrap wire, like 18 gauge twisted wire, put a red T-tap on that and tap into the green-orange wire in the driver's side fuse area. That wire goes to the driver door switch for the dome light. That will trigger the alarm. So this is the way I wired it. So to all you haters, hey, it worked. That's all I know. It worked for me. Okay, so inside the car, driver's side, pull this off to get to the fuses. All these fuses on the driver's side are hot only when the key is on. So I've got to get my 12 volt constant always on power. I got to get that from the passenger side. So I selected a fuse here that I can use with the orange wire, which is the key on position. And I'm going to use the fourth one up, and that is a 7.5 amp fuse. That goes to the mirrors, power mirrors, so it's not a critical thing if I do trip that fuse or something. So the way these work is there's two fuses in there. One came with the car, that's the one closest to the pins, and the 5 amp comes with this wire. So the way you do this is you put the 5 amp fuse in, leave the other socket empty, and then plug it in. And if it's direction dependent, like if you put it this way, well, it won't fit physically because this is in the way, but if you put this in, the fuse, do not have anything in that first slot closest to the pins, leave that out, and then plug it in, take your voltmeter and test your positive lead here, and then ground, and see if you get 12 volts. If you don't get any voltage, turn around the other way, try again, because these are direction dependent. After you know which way it goes, then stick the fuse that was in your fuse panel, put that in the first position closest to the pin, so that's 7.5, and the 5 came with this, okay? So we'll put that in there, push that in, and I'm going to use this for my key on. I'm going to tie that to my orange wire on the add a fuse. Let's go to the passenger side now. So on the passenger side, we're going to do the same thing, and the fuses are labeled on the panel here. So on this one, we're going to use number 11, which is the interior dome light, not a critical thing if I short it out. So I'm going to put the add a fuse on the third one down. That's number 11. It's a 7.5 amp fuse. And you notice the direction of this add a fuse is this way, because if I turn it the other way, then I test for 12 volts on here, you know, power red lead here, and then ground the black lead here to test with my voltmeter. If it's the other way, I get nothing. So, you know, you test with only the 5 amp fuse in the outer position. So now that I know what I want in there, you know, I put my factory fuse closest to the pins, 7.5 amp. The one that comes with this wire, the 5 amp, goes in the outer position. So I tested already, and it has to go this direction to get power here. And of course you're testing without that factory fuse. And so this is going to be my red wire. I'm going to run a long wire through the dash to the other side. This is my 12 volt constant power. I noticed somebody used some T-taps here, and I bought this car used a long time ago. I wish I had one of those connectors to use that, because there's 2 of them here. One of these I tested is 12 volt constant. I ordered some of those T-taps, but they're not here yet. They take forever to get. There's nowhere to buy them locally. So that's how I'm going to hook this up. And I'm going to put the tilt sensor right by my parking brake release. And I'll show you how this is going to work. Okay, so I took this out, pulled the wire out so I can see what color it is. And then over here, I found it is green with a orange stripe. So I found it in the mucks here. So this, I'm going to put a T-tap later. I'm waiting for them to arrive. Put my ground wire on this bolt right here, and that's the number 30 on my relay. Correct myself. My trigger from my light here, the green wire with the orange stripe. I don't have my T-tap yet, so I'm going to use alligator clips. So that goes to this yellow wire, my relay number 86 on the relay. Orange wire from the tilt sensor is going to go to my AutoFuse on the driver's side. Already hooked up just for testing purposes. I want to demonstrate this, that it works, before I run this long wire through the dash. So I'm just going to take this over to the passenger side and hook it up to the other AutoFuse. Okay, we got our relay plugged in, got all of our wires connected. Now we just need our tilt sensor. We'll plug in here. Everything's wired. I'm going to set this on a kind of level surface on the seat, just using my wrench to keep it from falling on the floor. And let's arm the car and see if we can set this alarm off. So what I'm going to do is put my window down so I can reach through the window. Okay, put the window down, and we'll simulate the car being jacked up. Now under the hood, let's take the horn relay out so we don't disturb the neighbors. And this is the horn relay. This is right there, horn. Take this relay out. I'm going to set it aside here. And now when I test the alarm, I'll see the headlights flash non-stop, like the alarm is going off, but I won't hear the horn. So that's what I want. I don't want to hear the horn right now. So I'm going to put the key on, pretend I'm driving. If I start it right now, the cat's missing, so it's going to be super loud, so I'm not going to start it up. And people might be wondering, can you drive a car with no cat? Yes, you can. Your check engine light will be on the whole time, because you're going to have lots of codes. So we're not going to drive it right now, but it does drive. It's really loud. You could get a ticket, and you won't pass smog. So let's simulate we just went driving and make sure this isn't going to do anything while we're driving. Yeah, no alarm. So I'm going to turn the key off, take the key out, and what this does is it remembers the incline angle. Like if you're parked on a hill, it measures that in the first few seconds. And these two little wires, one is for a longer set time, and the other one is less sensitivity. So we're going to take the default. We're not going to snip those wires, either one. We're going to leave them. So let's pretend we're parking the car. And let's lock the door. So the security light is blinking. System is armed. I thought about tapping into this instead of, I thought maybe the orange wire could tap into this, but maybe I'll try that later. Instead of using 12 volt power out of the panel, I thought about tapping into this. Okay, so moves more than 1 degree, this will click. We can listen for the relay too, and this will both make a little click. Did you hear that? And now we have the alarm going off. Remember, I took the horn relay out. Now let's see if we can stop the alarm. There we go. Stop the alarm. The other thing you can do if it's going off, you can reset your alarm system by putting the key in. Left, right, left, right. Do that like 2 times and it'll reset the alarm if you can't get it to stop going off. Okay, the car is armed, and let's see, that's almost level. Let's see how far we can get the car off the ground before we set it off. Okay, we just set it off, and the tires are not even off the ground yet. So that is good. Tires are not off the ground. The alarm is going off. This would be honking like crazy. So very little angle. It's probably about 1 degree like the packaging says. So I'd say this works really well. So let's take our key and let's just hit the unlock and it stopped. So let's arm it again. And now that let's say we're parked on a steeper hill. So I'm going to leave the jack position where it's at, see if I can go up 1 more degree. Let's see what happens when we go up 1 more degree. I hope I gave it 30 seconds to reset. Better give it 30 seconds. Oh, there we go. So from the position we were at before, we're still not off the ground, see? So it remembers if you park on a hill, it sets the position within a few seconds after arming it. Okay, this works really well. I think I'm happy with that. So now I can go to the muffler shop and get my new cat. So California cat at the dealer is $4 grand. I can't believe somebody stole a 23-year-old cat. So Flowmaster, they're actually based in Oceanside, California. They make an aftermarket cat that is CARB, California Air Resource Board compliant, even for ultra-low emission vehicles like this one. So that one is $1,600, and there's labor to put it in, so it's not cheap, but I wanted to get this thing alarmed before putting another one on it. Red wire through the dash now, make it all neat and tidy, put these wires all nice and tidy, put my relay up in the dash, and then for this has to lay flat, so I'm going to take off this, and there's a little section right about here next to a wire harness. I can mount this flat on the metal, and they give you some double stick tape or Velcro or something. I think it's double stick tape, and I will stick that right in there, wires facing this way, and then I can run all my wires up nicely through here and put my relay up here somewhere and make it all look professional. This is what the connector looks like at the other end. I cut this off because, you know, I'm obviously soldering wires together and putting heat shrink on them, making them all look professional. So if you're going to get the other 504D and integrate with that with the 507 for the bump sensor, I'm not going to do that. Just cut this off. So that's how you wire up one of these and make it work. And I'll show you when it's all finished, and I'll show you my new cat when I go get it. Got to give the guy a deposit. It takes 1 day to get, then he'll weld it on. It's not going to have flanges. I don't care. You know, you don't take cats off once they're on, so they're going to weld it pipe to pipe, no flanges. Okay, so it's a very tiny wire. Get the 18 to 22 here, and crimp it down. Okay, extra crimp for good measure. Such a tiny wire. I don't want that tiny wire coming out. Okay, that wire's in there. Now for the other half, we're going to take our door wire. I'm going to lay this in the groove. Flip this over and close it and crimp it. And then our push-on connector will be right there. Okay, we've got our T-tap on the door light. Okay, everything's closed back up. All the panels are back in. The alarm is tested, works well, so we're off to the muffler shop. So with the cat is the Downstream oxygen sensor. So I picked up a new one, Denso 2344621. From the other side, there is the oxygen sensor plugged in. Okay, there's my new cat with the welding, and you can see the D193114 number for the smog technician. And that's where they made the seam welded up. That's a section of pipe you had to add. That's the cat. That's where it was cut. So it all looks good. This job is done.